Hello and welcome everyone to the Psychic Kitchen podcast. My name's Jimmy Davey. Thomas, who is normally with us, unfortunately, he can't make it today. But so I'm going solo, and I'm delighted today to welcome a good friend of mine, Zay-P. So welcome, Zay.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come on. I've been enjoying what I've seen. This a few snippets of the podcast so far, but I was looking forward to the opportunity to be able to jump on and connect with you and Thomas. I'm a little disappointed that Thomas isn't here. We haven't had a chance to connect in a little bit, but hopefully I'll be able to catch up with him maybe next time if we do this again. So
Yeah.
again, thanks, Jimmy. I appreciate the time and for
Pleasure.
let me come on and hang out.
Yeah, no, pleasure. And for those who don't know you, if you do you want to just tell us a bit about yourself, how you got here, what you've been up to, and all of that.
Sure. So, for those who don't know me, it's your boy Zay-P. Zay-P that I am. I am that I am, as you are that you are, for we are that we are. And basically, I am just a person just like you. I am, which means that it is kind of ever evolving, right? And it's always unfolding. I'm a dad, a father, I'm a brother, I'm a husband. I'm also an energy worker. I'm a Reiki master. I am a dancer and actor. I do many things. I wear many hats. But ultimately, I'm just a seeker of truth. And I think that's probably the thing that really resonates me most with you and with this podcast is the idea that we like to explore different depths and bring forward truth in all the ways that we can find it. And so I think ultimately that's basically about who I am. I have a condition, a condition called sickle cell, which is kind of my forever cross or burden to bear. And I carry that with whatever resiliency I can, going through various complications, but just trying to maintain a stable mindset and stay in communion with God and with my own blessings, with my own spirit, and just in oneness with all. And that has really helped continue to heal me and uplift me and just kind of keep me guided on this path. And I try to offer the best I can of that truth to the rest of the world. So as a Reiki master, as a teacher, I've been a mentor in the past. Currently, I'm in the hermit phase. I think this is one of the first forays I've been out in a couple of months because I've just been kind of cultivating. Spirit has kind of called me back internally for a while. I've been focusing on healing and getting through some of my own personal health complications and just focusing on family. So when I go through health complications, I really try to bring as much energy as I can to my physical reality, to being a dad and making sure I'm present as much as possible because it can be real easy to get into myself and and not be present for my son or different things like that. And so that's kind of where I've been recently, and that's been my focus. But I'm still doing the work. A few clients here in New York City. I do physical in-person sessions as well as online sessions. But so I've had a couple of clients here in the city throughout the past couple of months. But for the most part, I've just been internally cultivating before coming back out. And it's feeling like 2025, like there's new energy coming forward. So I'm kind of I'm feeling like, oh, that's going to be a reascension of, I think, a lot of different people. I think a lot of different energies are going to start coming forward in 2025. This sense of like resiliency and urgency in the resurgence of those with power, of those who should be taking their space and sitting in their truth. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, sounds good, man. I know we all have breaks sometimes. Sometimes we feel like we need to take a rest just to recharge or whatever, because we've got other stuff going on.
Absolutely.
How do you manage that? And how do you know when you need to take a break, or do you like some people, we keep going and we keep going and we keep going, and then something happens and we're forced to have a break. Do you kind of do you know when you need to take a break, and so therefore you don't need that sort of slap around the face to say, no, you take a break now?
Yeah, that's so funny, because I wish I could say like I just knew. I've always been one that's like I preach, listening to your body, being present, being aware, and I make the effort to do all of that with the work that I do. And so I take steps towards that, but I'm human like everybody else. And so, yeah, I fall victim to the same old rigmarole where you hit that crash, you hit that burnout, right? Like it's like do until all of a sudden it's just like I can't do anymore. I've hit the wall and something has happened. I try not to let it get to that for the most part, right? Like we're trying to watch out for that all along. I think with a lot of what I do day to day, I try to keep up with my day to day like coping mechanisms and spiritual practices, things that ground me. So, I'm a big meditator. I try to do meditation every day. I sometimes go through these phases, right? Where I use like a meditation app, like Insight Timer. It's my personal favorite. And so I use that to kind of keep track and motivate me throughout my days. And I'll get on a streak where I'll do like 1,000 days straight of straight meditation. And then I'll fall off for like 2-3 weeks of nothing.
Yeah.
And then I'll get back on the horse and be like, okay, I'll do another couple of months. And then I might fall off for like a month or a week. And so I go through these phases. So right now I've been falling off and putting the work to get back onto a consistency with my meditation. That's a big thing. Breath work. I do a lot of breath work. And doing that day to day helps really keep me grounded, helps really keep me aligned. I try to get in like a lot of physical, not physical activity, but just like a little bit of exercise, different things to ground yourself. Whether that's like trying to go out for walks or getting a little bit of in the gym or whatever you got to do to kind of like get the body in motion. Every little bit helps, even if it's just a slow, steady walk. I often, because of my condition, can't do too much. And then I have to be like, today I could only do a 5-minute walk, a slow 5-minute walk, but I'll do that as much as I can. And within the next couple of months, eventually I'll be getting back to that 20-minute brisk walk, right? But I'll never get there unless I start with the slow, stroll through the park.
Yeah, totally. I know what you mean. It's a bit like meditation as well, and I suppose in a sense, because I remember when I
was thinking that.
Starting to start off with maybe 5-10 minutes and then build it up, and eventually, I mean, if I go for too long, meditate for too long, I fall asleep. And I think the times when I've managed to go for a decent length of time, like maybe half an hour plus, I've had an amazing experiences where I've almost kind of come out of my body. But I unfortunately I can't always get to that state because I'm normally asleep by then, which is a bit annoying, but never mind. So meditation wise and breath work, because I know you're a big breath work sort of teacher, practitioner, and what are some, have you sort of used that, and what are some of the advantages you've found from doing that?
I will say, kind of also tying into what you're saying about meditation, one of the lessons that I learned when I was really learning to getting into meditation, which was like years and years ago, I started going to a lot of like Buddhist and Dharma retreats, like week-long retreats and things of that nature, where it's just meditation all day, nonstop, right? And one of the things that I learned during that period was that it's never about if I'm doing it right and keeping that consistently. It's always about coming back to it. Because as the human, you're going to lose focus. You're going to get distracted. Your mind's going to go here. You're going to fall asleep. Your leg's going to get stiff. All these things can happen that's going to distract you. And this is the same as with life, right? There's all these things that's going to come along that's going to distract you. but just giving yourself that simple grace of saying, that's okay. Something distracted me. Now I can go back to it. Now I remember. Now I can go back to it. And so having that mindfulness to say, okay, what was my goal before? I can go back to it. And then applying that throughout life in general, you see that attitude towards meditation become meditation in life, in the sense of, yeah, like I said, like even what we were just talking about just now, like me kind of going into an internal mode, but then slowly working my way back out. And it's just like with meditation, slowly coming back out to speak and teach and heal and do the work again. But there be those times where you fall off, and just the same thing. You've been learning these lessons since we were kids. As a baby, you fall off the bike. They always tell us it's not how many times you fall off, but it's how many times you can get up and get back on. Right? Like getting back on the horse one more time is the difference between mastery and falling victim to fear. So I think that is one of the biggest ways that I see it. This type of stuff applied throughout life. Like how I see meditation applies throughout life beyond just, oh, I'm doing the work of meditation, so maybe that brings me peace internally. But the ideology behind, I'm going to be consistent with this. I'm going to be consistent with my commitment, my thoughtfulness regarding it. I'm going to be consistent with giving myself grace and forgiveness for when I fall and slip up. I'm going to be consistent with choosing to go back and complete the process or do whatever, and consistently giving ourselves these things allows us to have that muscle to apply that in all other aspects in life, I think.
Yeah, no, that's good. I like that. Being consistent, I think, is definitely one of the components to have. I don't want to say successful, because we sort of judge our own success differently. But I think it's one of the components to get where you feel like you want to be, because we have certain goals or what have you that we want to achieve, and being consistent with them, I think, is probably, you could argue, well, I could argue, the most important number one thing that you can do is whatever it is. If you be consistent with something, then you're going to get there, because
absolutely. The only way you're ever going to get anywhere is to be consistent in the pursuit of that. But I also think it's very important to balance that with some other elements. Like I think the idea of mindfulness, which is something else that I came up when I was just describing my journey with meditation, is this having the thoughtfulness of seeing what it is, seeing when I fall off, recognizing, oh, I've fallen out of the meditation. Oh, I'm distracted. Oh, I'm here. And then having the mindfulness to go back and finish the meditation. Or recognizing that meditation is over. But we gotta have that mindfulness. Sometimes I'm not saying to anybody, oh, be consistent in whatever you do, because I don't believe in that. I think sometimes we grow, we change, and there are valid reasons we may change our minds, and choices may change, and we may choose to walk away, and for whatever reason. So I'm not always saying always consistency in doing a thing, but I mean consistency in the behaviors that you build for yourself, in the ways you wish to be in this world, in relation to this world. Do you wish to be a loving, forgiving person, and then the effort to be consistent in being a loving, forgiving person? That kind of consistency. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, because sometimes we'll start something. I'm guilty of this. We'll start something thinking, yeah, I really want to do this, and then halfway through you think, well, actually, I've kind of gone off it now. I don't really want to do it.
Yes.
I think I decided I wanted to learn Spanish because I was going occasionally to Spanish on holiday, because I had a cousin who lived over there, and I thought, yeah, I'd like to learn Spanish so I can speak, converse a bit more easier when I'm over there. I think I went, it was an 8-week or 12-week course. I think I did 2 weeks and then had enough of it, and so I just didn't want to do it anymore. But I feel like there are times when you think, right, yeah, I really don't want to do it. And there's a time when you think, well, I don't want to do it, but I know I have to do it. There's something within me saying I have to do it, and I have to push through and
Right.
keep doing it because I know it's ultimately going to bring me sort of do the thing that I wanted to do. And that's about
Yeah.
sort of it's recognizing that difference, isn't it? I suppose. Um,
Yeah. I think
sense.
so. Well, I think that also comes with that whole mindfulness thing. Like
Hmm.
mindfulness is such a nuanced word, like that's thrown around a lot, but it's like, um, keeping something in mind, like with regards, like everything we have, there are root causes for why we do a thing. There are all sorts of these nuanced reasons, and those things can change at any given moment, or they can grow.
Hmm.
And your why for a thing may change in any instant, and all of a sudden, if you're not mindful or aware enough, you find yourself miserable doing something that you started a long time ago, right? Like
Hmm.
I went to school for marketing and advertising, and I
Hmm.
started that path, and I got the internships, and I was working
Hmm.
in Times Square, the heart of New York City, the big skyscrapers. I worked in the cool, fancy
Hmm.
office buildings, and it
Hmm.
was the dream. Like, oh shit, I'm really kind of getting up here, and then it was like my values started to change. I really started to shift as a person,
Hmm.
especially after I had more of my spiritual awakening,
Hmm.
and I came to a place of realizing that even though I went to school for this and I was finishing off this degree in the sense of that was my commitment, so I was going to be consistent in that. I ended up not pursuing that as a career path because I had
Hmm.
changed as a person and I no longer wished or desired for those things anymore. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
that desire became all of a sudden I realized I had the mindfulness to realize that's now toxic for me.
Hmm.
Like trying to live that lifestyle and be in that environment would
Hmm.
not have served me physically, health wise. None of it was good for
Hmm.
me.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
had the idea of that's what we should want as a lifestyle, so
Hmm.
I was gonna go get it.
Yeah.
And then seeing it and the tasting it, experiencing it just a little bit is enough for me to really
Hmm.
come to a place of being like, I've changed and this is not me
Hmm.
anymore, and I don't really need this. So
Hmm.
yeah, that mindfulness led me in a different direction. I had that thoughtfulness with regards to who I am and the things that drive and motivate me, right? But
Hmm. Yeah.
without
Yeah. Totally.
awareness, without awareness, that don't mean anything, right? You just doing whatever you got to do for the rigmarole.
Yeah. That's like, how do we know unless we try something? You had to try it and be in that space to know whether or not it was for you or not. It seemed like it
Yeah,
was a good idea. I think most of us have tried stuff that seems like a good idea at the time, and then we realised it was not necessarily didn't work out the way that we planned. Um,
it didn't go the way I wanted it to,
yeah,
but
exactly.
it led to experience. And I think that's what this whole process is about.
Mm. That's like if someone asks,
Having
whenever
experiences.
if someone speaks to someone about something that they want to do or whatever, I think, well, why not? I think why not do it if you feel like you want to do it, try it. So, um, but
I
I
agree with
just say,
that.
yeah, I just
You're not hurting anybody, and hopefully you're not hurting yourself. And have fun.
yeah, exactly. I mean, look, there are things within reason. I was going to say that there are sort of things that that it's not going to be good, and you don't feel called to do them because it may hurt someone else or whatever. Um,
So,
so there are things that we are aware of, sort of consciously or morally, what have you. Um,
yeah, like you said, within reason.
yeah, exactly. Um, so we've got a few people watching at the moment. Just say hello. Hey, Lauren, Michelle, Ada, Kimmy. Hey, Janine, Sandy. Hey, Bernadette. Hey, Paula.
What's up,
Nice to
everybody?
see you
Wow,
all.
these are a bunch
If
of
you-
names that I haven't heard in a while. It's so
ah,
beautiful to see you all here. Thank y'all.
and Jan's just popped on. If anyone's got any questions for Zay, then feel free to pop them in the chat, and I'll get to them
Yeah,
in a bit.
I've been laying low for a while, so feel free to.
Mm, grill him about what he's been up to. Um, you mentioned about because I mean I'm aware, but for those who are not, that there was one. I know there was one specific event. If you don't mind, if you want to talk about it, that sort
Yeah.
of was the trigger for your whole spiritual awakening, so to speak.
Ah, wow. Okay, yeah, I'll talk about my spiritual awakening in general. It's hard to say
Mm,
there was one specific trigger, but I'll
mm.
say like the year, right? Because it was many things that happened in
Okay.
this particular year that really shifted me.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I
and that
really
was
honor
like
that.
2016. But it's weird because when I think about it, like I've always, just like most of us, we've always been on these paths before we even our eyes even expanded in a sense. So
Mm,
I had always been exploring different things. Like I said, I used to go to meditation retreats for Buddhist and Dharma retreats. So I'd
mm,
always been kind of an explorer. But in 2016, I had a major awakening, a major shift, and it
mm,
really had like this mind blowing experience. Whereas I felt it very physically, and what
mm,
I come to understand, a lot of people say now is a Kundalini awakening because
mm,
of the physical energy shifting. But that's really when I came into my gifts as a energy channel and being able
mm,
to work with energy and connect with spirit through energy. Um, but that was in 2016, and that year, well, I discovered a book that shifted my life and shifted my perspective in a lot of ways, and that was Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, which I'm sorry, I just have to shout him out. That, and then I had a massive stroke, and
mm,
the stroke kind of came right after the awakening, but really solidified everything that was shifting in me because I
mm,
was kind of going through this am I crazy phase with my awakening as it was, and then I had this stroke that landed me in the hospital, and I had to go through
mm.
rehab and recovery, and I was seeing so many different things,
Oh,
but
yeah.
the lessons really started to come together through all of that kind of personal transformation and in that time where
Mm,
it really brought me to a place of maybe committing my life more towards doing things with the nature of spirit, right?
mm,
So
mm,
whether that be teaching, whether that be the energy work and the healing work that I do, and now whether that be going into offering support groups for those with chronic illnesses and
mm.
more in that direction. I'm often feeling called to just be a guide and be an aid to others as I've been blessed enough to have on my own journey. So, yeah,
Mm.
I think that's is that the experience you're talking about? The stroke, the first stroke?
Yeah, yeah. Because I remember, obviously, like we've known each other a while, and I'm aware of that. And that was sort of the catalyst. But it was more the year. It was the
It was,
catalyst.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then did that actual specific event. But that kind of just sort of heightened it almost. Mm,
It's funny because that was at the time what I said about going back to school. I was going back to school and I was in school for advertising and public relations. And at that time, I
mm,
had made up my mind that I was just gonna go for the money, right?
mm,
Like I'd done all these things previously as a performer. I love to act. As a DJ, I lived the nightlife. Like I had all
mm,
these great New York City experiences.
mm,
But as a man, I was just like, I wanted to see that financial success that everybody keeps, saying is
mm,
the value of the thing. And so
mm,
I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go back to school and
mm.
get into this advertising and public relations, and then I start to really get into it, and I had that happen, and it was kind of like God was like,
Yeah, not
wait,
this
sit
way.
down, let's think about this, slow
Mm,
down for a minute, kid.
mm. Yeah, yeah.
And let's reflect. And coming out of that, it was like, do I still want this? I mean, I finished school and
Mm,
I worked a little bit, but then it was just like, I'm not gonna go down this career path.
yeah. And the thing is, you could try and sort of impart some advice and say this is not the way to someone else. But then
Mm,
again, they won't necessarily. They'll still do what they need to do and probably go down that path because they need to find out for themselves, obviously. So
okay.
it's a funny thing insofar as we can give people the benefit of our experience, but ultimately I think everyone's going to do what they need to do, and I'm not an advocate of telling someone what to do. Really. I mean, obviously, raising children and stuff like that is a different story because they have to be guided and to some respect.
I think too, you're right. Even that applies even to children, though. There's a sense of
Oh yeah, yeah. They need to. I
they
was
want to
like,
grow independently, right? They want to be autonomous. And
yeah,
even my son now, he's 12 and he's growing into more of his wanting to assert himself. So I try to guide him, but I recognize that I cannot control him, and it's not fair of me to have expectations on what he turns out to be.
no, you want to. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
And I mean, I was lucky enough to have parents who kind of let me find my own way. And then it wasn't because they didn't care or anything like that. They just sort of were relaxed enough to know that I sort of had to find things out for myself.
yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. So I
That's
didn't have to believe in a certain thing or do things a certain way, or anything like that. But then again, if that's people can raise their children however they want. I'm not saying
I think also like when I was doing mentorship and training as coaching, like that's one of the biggest principles is the idea of not you're not here to give the answers. You're not here to tell the person what to do or to even guide them, so to speak, only to provide the space and reflection that they need to, really see and understand their own thoughts, desires, and make choices as appropriate. But in that sense, is like helping guide others to their own wisdom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to like, well, this is what I think, and this is how I think you should proceed. Because for one, that never works. For two, I'm not here to know or understand anybody else's path, right? Just like nobody else is here to know or understand my path. So like, I'm always leery of that when especially when I try to, just share anything, but really. Especially nowadays, times are very sensitive. So it's like, you try to share something, it's very easy to come off and you be offensive or somehow miscommunicated. And next thing you know, it's just like, it just seems that's another thing that I've been feeling I've been feeling a lot of call from spirit is the sense of just really allowing others their space in the sense of stepping back. There's not much of a need to talk or preach or guide or anything like that, and really just to focus on what I need to do for me, because we all are here to walk our own paths in a sense, and there's no, like, for me, there's no requirement for me to do what I thought I was required to do. There's no requirement for me to do that. All of that was choice. It's coming to that understanding that it's okay to choose me, and like you said, take that break.
Oh, definitely. Hey, Sandy. And actually, that's a good point. Because I find just personally, the more that I feel like I'm becoming aware and more sort of healing sort of stuff that I'm doing, the less I feel the need to talk. So I'm sort of becoming. I didn't really talk much anyway. I know I'm doing a podcast, so that's sort of a bit ironic that I'm saying that I'm not talking as much, and yet I'm doing a podcast. But
it's different. But I know what you mean, but it's different.
We used to do like 2 or 3 lives on Facebook or whatever a week, 2 or 3 hours at a time. But I felt like I stepped back, and even in sort of my personal life, I'm not talking as much. I'm more sort of, whereas before I was just shy, so I didn't talk to people. Whereas now it's sort of just observing and watching, and not necessarily having to join in or give my opinion on anything, just sort of allow it, just watching and just being silent and listening, because there's more feel like there's more of an awareness now, and realizing that I don't have to always be talking or saying anything or giving my opinion on something. But that's just how I see things. You know, someone might see things different and feel like they need to. So
I totally agree with that. Like I've been feeling called for that exact same thing. I feel like I
mm,
used to be really good at listening, and I'm learning or recognizing that
mm,
I've somewhere along the lines lost that. And so just like kind of coming
mm,
back again, that
mm,
idea of just seeing it, having the awareness, and now coming back to
mm.
just being okay with being the observer and not
Yeah, yeah,
necessarily the participant. Being okay
yeah,
with
yeah.
listening and not
Mm,
having to interject my thoughts or opinions on a
yeah. Because I feel like most of the time people aren't able to accept a different point of view anyway, and that may just be my perception.
thing.
But and so I tend to engage with people who are willing to do that, willing to sort of see other without having to argue and prove that they're right. I like to interact with people who are willing to see different perspectives, and to
I
accept
wonder.
them without arguing or shouting me down. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I wonder. Do you
Mm,
feel like that is a people thing? Like I feel like I feel that same way, right? I
mm,
recognize that aspect. That it's almost like if it doesn't really, people don't want to hear what you got to say. Like if it doesn't really go, like people don't really. But um, I
it's like
wonder
that.
if that's a people thing or if that's
Mm.
the times we're in thing.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, it might be. There's a time I heard someone say that people, when someone asks your opinion, they don't want to hear your opinion. They just want to hear their words coming out of your mouth or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, because if you say
I think
something that
that's
they're not expecting, then they say, "Oh, no, you're wrong. You know, that's a load of rubbish or whatever," and then they try and force their opinion on you. Um, and I think I don't want to talk to you. Uh, not I
yeah,
don't want to talk to them
yeah.
because
I
of
think
that they're not willing to be open to listening to anything. Because I'm open to listening to other people, but only if that is a two-way thing, not just a one-way thing.
yeah, I get that. I think that's a like in this modern times, the current era we're in, especially with everybody being so sensitive, like I mentioned earlier, I think a lot of that is like people take that, it's not even a disagreement, but that difference of opinion
Mm,
as an offense as opposed to difference. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
instead of recognizing, okay, you just have a different thought than me,
mm.
nowadays it's taken as though your different thought from me
Yeah.
invalidates my thought, therefore invalidates me. Now
Mm,
I'm mad. Now
mm.
F you. Here comes all the mean words. It's like,
That's too
okay.
personal. Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. And funny enough, I was watching. Yeah, I was watching a stream by Hikaru Nakamura, a chess player, super grandmaster. And he was streaming and he was trying to give lessons on chess, and he was sort of telling people what his moves were and why he was doing them, and the theory behind them in it and stuff like that. And someone said he started about talking about various other subjects, and someone asked him why he didn't talk about politics. Um, and he said, because there's no point. Because with politics, you've got two people on opposite sides, and they only are interested in how in their own side. And whenever someone questions that, they start arguing because they both think
Mhm.
that both sides think they're right. So there's no point. There's no point starting a conversation because you're not going to get anywhere because neither side is willing to listen to the other. And I thought, yeah, that's a good way of sort of looking at it. And that's kind of I've never really been interested in politics personally, and because I think it's so divisive, it's so um, polar that they're kind of there's just so much.
But that brings to mind the question of like, how do we ever get anywhere if nobody could talk to each other?
Yeah, yeah, I know.
Right? Like
I know
if
what you
one
mean.
side feels like I can't talk to you because of this and
Yeah,
that, and the other
mm,
side just
true.
feels angered or triggered, like it just kind
Mm,
of becomes a well. Then how do we
mm,
grow past this? Get through whatever this issue is that, and that's
mm,
what happens with politics. You see, especially here in the States, you'll
mm,
see Congress shut down. Like it's
mm,
weird. Like they'll be like, we can't come to a consensus, and now Congress is taking off for a week or somebody. It's just till like the president comes. It's like you better get back to work or something. And
yeah.
and I always find that weird when I hear those news stories. Like Congress has
Mm,
ceased talks about something. Like, how do you
mm.
just we're not getting along on this product? Like what?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what. I mean, obviously, hopefully there'll be more people. I mean, I don't know where the solution is to I don't know, just abolish politics altogether, to be honest. But I don't know. But hopefully there'll be people who are willing to. Because I think it's sort of that maybe the best solution is a mix of both sides. I think that may be the case in a lot of things.
Yeah,
But no
yeah, I would think.
side is willing to concede anything. It's like their way or the highway. And I mean,
No
whether
one.
it's all by design and stuff like that, but
Right. So everybody ends up standing up on the side of the road.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, when the sort of the best way is down the middle, sort of thing. Yeah, I know what you mean. But interesting. I was gonna. You mentioned at the start about 2025 and the
Mm.
energies you feel like the energy of 2025, and that kind of brought sort of future predicting to my mind for some reason. How do you view like future predictions? And because I tend to get a feeling of how something's going to go or whatever, or just get a feeling not to worry about anything, even if sort of things don't seem like they're that great at a particular moment in time. There's a feeling within me that says, no, don't worry about it. You know, things will be okay.
Mm.
How do you view? Is
Yeah.
that instinct? Is that intuition? How do you view that kind of aspect of it?
I honestly feel like for me, like I take a very broad and wide approach with um, with any glimpses into future or across time in a sense, right? Like the
Mm.
even like it's just mm,
It's more than
time
just the
is
moment.
so
Mm.
huh?
I
What'd
was
you
going to
say?
say it's more than just that moment. There's a
Yeah,
broader.
and time is so fluid and in flux that
Mm,
I have the awareness that
mm,
anything, even receiving a future prediction affects
mm,
the future. You know what I'm saying?
mm.
Like that
Yeah.
then has a ripple effect that changes things, and
Mm,
so the future and the past to an extent is always in a state of flux, and
mm,
so the readings are it's very difficult to nail down
mm,
um, specifics, like guarantee specifics. It's
mm,
very difficult to do. I feel like to do that, those readings are usually narrower in a sense, meaning
mm,
they're usually closer to what's going to happen immediately. Like I can
mm,
tell you what's going to happen tomorrow or next week, but it's
mm,
a little more difficult to say what's going to happen next year. And
mm,
it's that much more difficult to say what's going to happen 10 years from now, knowing I
mm.
don't know what the presidency situation is going to look like, right?
Yeah.
So, um, so that's what I mean in that sense. And so with that,
Mm,
when I feel into the energy, because as I said, I'm an energy worker, and that's
mm,
how I tap into everything for me for the most part. Like
mm,
it's through energy, and then I'll hear my guys, and I'll feel that. I'll feel it energetically, which translates as emotions within my body and and actual energy because I get the chills and shivers and all that. But um, um, for me, like if I get a glimpse, I'll say I get glimpses because I don't
mm,
actually go looking. Like I know people who peer into
mm,
the future, who have that ability to actually, and
mm,
they offer future predictions. I
mm,
don't do future predictions because I'm not that great at that, but I get senses of energy, and I get the
mm,
sense of a compulsion of kind of like an uprising, a bubbling up to the surface,
mm,
of things, and the sense of
mm,
like whether it's a lot of people feeling suppressed and now feeling like there's an opportunity to come out from under that suppression. Whether it's those who may be raging against the machine because some person is in power, or whether it's those who celebrating because their person is in power. But underneath the surface feels this energy of rising up to the surface, coming out from underneath. And whether it's I'm gonna come up and fight, or I'm here, I finally made it to the top, and now we're gonna be able to get our way. Is that kind of sense. And when I talk to people, I'm feeling this sense of almost urgency in people, the sense of like it's almost like a frustration that's ready to pop across a broad spectrum. And so that's what I feel like is coming for 2025. It's just going to be a lot of these, whether it's micro explosive events, which might be, you might look ugly initially in the news because the media focuses on the negative, but in day-to-day life, that might look more like people just taking action in their own lives, right? So the media is going to focus on the kid who shot the United Healthcare CEO. That's horrible, shocking news. But in somebody's day-to-day life, they're going to be, maybe they're going to be feeling empowered to take some action. Like, I'm getting off United Healthcare and switching insurance companies. I never liked them anyway, or some shit like that because of what happened. Whatever the case may be, it feels like that stirring energy is coming up where people are going to really want to be proactive. And so that's what I was talking about. But I try not to give too much broader of a future prediction than talking about the energies in that kind of context.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, when I used to do readings and stuff, I didn't really used to do much future predicting stuff. I used to feel into it a little bit. But I mean, obviously, speaking of,
I know it's in high demand, and I see the value of it. There was a time where I was really into it. And so I say, I think it could be a lot of fun. I think it's great. It's great food for thought. It's great, but I think it's something that should also be taken with a grain of salt. And I think people should not just hang their hats on future predictions. Like, I think we live in the here and now. And so ultimately what's most important is the actions and steps that you're taking and whom you are being in the here now moment. Right. And ultimately that's going to lead to the future, right? What the future needs to be. If you make it a here and now moment, what it needs to be, it's going to lead to the future that we need to be.
Yeah, like do what you need to do now, and then the future will take care of itself, sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, we both have a friend who, I mean, she does amazing future predictions. She's the best that I've seen doing. I don't know how she does it, but
and I still go to her, like like it's especially when you really get that sense of unsureness, and you want to feel, or you want a steady thought to take that next step of faith on. If that makes sense, you know what I'm saying? Like, our mutual friend gift is so deep that it's always amazing to have somebody who can do that and who can give you an assured feeling for what comes next or what is coming up now.
And the connect is kind of like inspiration as well, can't it? As well as reassurance and everything, I suppose. Because everything can be, I suppose, used in a way that can inspire in a sense. I guess.
I think so. I think so.
I mean, Bashar would say it's just a permission slip or something like that. I think he uses that word.
Permission slips. I honestly, I like it. I love that terminology. I do believe a lot of what we do, what we don't do, comes down to the permission slips we've given ourselves. I think a lot of quote unquote bad guys are people who have given themselves permission slips willy-nilly. Like, is it okay to hurt somebody to get this money? Yeah, you got a permission slip. And,
Carte blanche,
they've
yeah.
taken that thought, that approach to life, and as messed up as it is, have figured out how to do what works for them, maybe. Which I don't even believe. I just don't believe anybody who is in discord and disharmony with the world around them could ever truly be living a happy life, even though it might be made to look that way in the media. But that's my own personal. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
my own personal take.
Yeah, I know you. It's kind of. I mean, I don't know if have you read The Law of One, The Raw Material? Have you read that book?
Yes. Well, actually, I mean, I haven't read it because I don't want to be one of those people. Oh yeah, I read it, but like I've read snippets of it. I've heard snippets of it, and I've heard people teach on it, but I haven't like read it. Like, because that's a long, deep text. It is in my library, and I've gotten into some of it, but it is deep. I start reading it, and I have to stop and like, let me just go over that little section in my mind a little bit.
Yeah, I had to do that a lot. When I was reading it, I sort of read it once and I thought, well, I didn't get all of that. I must admit.
Yeah, but it's
I read it
an
again,
amazing find, especially when you get into channeling and stuff. It's just like it's an amazing find.
Yeah. But the one, I mean, there were bits and pieces that stood out, and I thought, I remember that. I remember this bit. I remember that bit. And there was one bit where they were talking about sort of ascension, and they said there's two sides. One side you go up is kind of like 50% self and 50% service to others, 50% service to self, 50% service to others. And the other side, I think there was something like you needed to do 95% service to self to go up that side, or something like that. So it was it was skewed towards sort of being with one and helping others as well as yourself, sort of being in balance. And then the other side, to go up the other side, and you can go up both sides, but you can only go up one side at a time. You can cross over or something like that. And so I think, well, obviously the people who do lots of things for themselves, and you could argue what's the stuff that what's for self and what's for others and stuff, because then you could argue, well, isn't everyone an extension of ourselves? And so are we doing things for ourselves all the time because everyone's a representation of it? There's all of that. You get quite
I think that's when a lot of the truth of perspective comes in. I don't think people recognize how deep that goes, but I think a lot of, because I think based on perspective, what we think is good and bad and right and wrong shifts greatly.
Oh, there's so many tangents that you can go off. It's just like you start talking about something, you think, well, what does that mean? And then you go off onto a tangent for that, and then that takes you off onto another tangent, and that's kind of like you're not sure where to go back to after a while because you've gone so far off road, sort of thing. But kind of. But that I can't see. I can't even remember what I was talking about. Why I brought up the raw.
Talking about the scales that were the raw material.
Oh yeah, but I can't remember why I thought of that in the first place. Why I felt like I wanted to mention that. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So,
did you like the raw material?
Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed it actually because it was one of the first books I read. When I kind of started the whole spiritual thing, or became aware of it. I was sort of, Dolores Cannon, I think, is a popular one as well that a lot of people read. I read a little bit of her Convoluted Universe bit, but I didn't really, I don't know, maybe a few hundred, couple of, or 100 pages, something like that. But then I thought, no, this is not really for me. There's something about it. And I've never read Conversations with God either by the one that you read. But I may have to give that. Or have you read?
I gotta say, Dolores Cannon, she's fine or whatever. I'm not knocking her. I've never been. I apologize. That's my light. I've never been the biggest. I've skimmed a lot of her stuff, but I've never been able to get into her stuff too much. Somebody who I love a lot more profoundly than Dolores Cannon, who I think goes a lot deeper for me personally than Dolores Cannon, Dr. Michael Newton, and he did a series of books called Journey of the Soul and Destiny of the Souls too. And he's like a legit therapist who actually got into kind of doing like his actual sessions, going into past lives, going into the life between life space. And he got to a place of recording these thousands of sessions of people, you know, under hypnosis, therapeutic sessions, bringing back all of these amazing memories from life between lives, you know, the soul realm, and even past lives. And he does this very in-depth exploration of what some could consider the afterlife or what's in between. And I think his work is so much further developed than Dolores Cannon's, but she's marketed like crazy, and people know and love her work. And I think Dolores Cannon is great. Don't knock me. I like the I think it's QHHT. You know, I think that's cool. But if you into that, I think you would really like Dr. Michael Newton, Journey of Souls, and then the sequel, blow your mind away.
Interesting. Have you ever had a QHHT session?
I have had a group QHHT session, right? So like there was a time where it's pretty popular, especially in New York, where it was going around like LBL sessions, which is Life Between Lines, which is Dr. Michael Newton, who I just talked about. And then QHHT sessions became popular afterwards, which was Dolores Cannon's work. And they would do those sessions could be really expensive one-on-one, especially at the time. And but they would, to make them more affordable, they would do like small groups, right? Where you can get a group of your friends or whatever, and they will come to space and they would do a guided session with like 5 of y'all, whatever. So I've done some small group sessions like that because we have a therapist. I used to manage a holistic wellness boutique center down in New York City, right? Back down in around Flatiron District. And so we were well within that holistic community. And so we knew different practitioners. And so we knew some practitioners of QHHT who would come, and we would barter services. And so I was able to get a couple sessions like that in. And and then I did a lot of just like regular hypnosis therapy, hypnosis, past life regression, and just like regular therapy sessions.
Cool.
Like I actually had pain treatment for lower back pains. I used to suffer with really bad lower back pains that was just unexplainable. And it was through hypnosis and experiencing a past life where I was a Roman. I think I told you this. I was a Roman soldier. I had got stabbed in the back in this past life. And in my present day life, I have been experiencing just these really bad back pains. And after I got that session, I got the understanding of where that pain was coming from. I still will get those back pains, but only in like the most extreme circumstances when like I'm really sick or fatigued and I'm still dragging myself and I don't feel well, but I still got to keep doing it. Then my back will start spasming down there, and I'm like, oh, that's from that past life experience. But since then, it doesn't affect me as much.
Oh, cool. Well, that's good. Yeah, I do think that stuff like that, learning about past lives and things that happened in them can sort of definitely affect us. But hey, Rita. Rita says, "We walked with Jesus" is Dolores Cannon. I haven't heard of that one. And she's
thinking Jesus.
Yeah,
I don't heard that one. I don't think I've heard of that one either.
Yeah.
But Dolores Cannon's put a lot of books out, and she's got because she's got like stuff that seems like almost like fiction writing, and she's also got therapy stuff. Then she's got different approaches to her stuff, so it makes sense that she touches so many bases. That's why her work goes with the people.
You can recognize the marketing ploys and strategies, being a previous marketing student.
Yeah, yeah,
I think that definitely helps, having a sort of an understanding of how to market without a doubt.
it does. But you know what's weird? I can't seem to
Mm,
bring myself to it, like to do
yeah,
it for my own
yeah, yeah.
self.
I know what
Like
you
I
mean.
know the rules, I know the approaches. Like I got a
Mm,
YouTube channel, and like I know what I'm supposed to do according to like
mm,
marketing rules and things of that nature.
yeah, yeah.
I only got a couple of hundred people on my channel. I can't seem to like my channel's been growing very slowly,
Mm,
and like, I don't do any of the stuff. Even though
yeah,
in my head,
yeah,
like I know I should be running ads and I should be playing them and I should be at
yeah,
least
yeah.
trying to touch a certain amount of audience members at least
Mm.
7 times per month. But I know all of that, but I don't do it.
I know what you mean. I don't know any of it, but I don't. That's just depends what you feel called to do. It's like there are certain things
It's
that.
not that. I don't feel called to do that. I feel like
Yeah,
those who feel called to me, they'll come and we can rock
yeah.
out. And that's it.
I like that approach. Yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
live by that as well. Speaking, we're nearly sort of up to the hour, but just quickly, hypnosis. I find hypnosis quite interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I, I, I think I was hypnotized. Um, it was on holiday. It was a holiday camp sort of affair, sort of a comedian hypnosis kind of got people up on stage, hypnotized them, and got them to do stupid things. And I
I did that
volunteered.
before.
Do you know about this? I volunteered, and there was a few things that I wasn't sure
What
if I
did you
was
do,
or not.
Jimmy?
Sorry, what was
What
that?
happened? I
I
said, what
wasn't
did
sure
you
if
do, Jimmy?
I wasn't sure if I
Man,
was hypnotized or not. But I felt compelled to do the things that he was telling me, maybe because there was loads of people watching, and so I was kind of me and this other guy were sort of the show, if you like.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and he sort of suggested that I do it, or sort of said to do a river dance. So I did a river dance, which is that sort of the Irish dance. What else? I had to chase someone around the room, and eventually he picked me to be the one that stripped off, because they generally like, because it was an adult thing.
Yeah.
And so I sort of started to strip off, but he stopped before I sort of got completely naked. Um,
Yeah. That's funny. I did it too, Jimmy. Just
I did
don't feel
it.
bad. I've done it too. Yeah. I had that experience. Las Vegas, of all places.
Oh,
It
really?
was one of
Oh,
those Las Vegas
mm,
hypnotist shows,
mm,
big
yeah,
grand
yeah,
stage, big dining hall, and they brought up a bunch of people on stage. And
mm,
my girl had to go ahead, go up there, and I was like, all right, let me go play along, just have some fun.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and it's definitely that experience of like, was I really hypnosis, or did I just go along with it?
yeah. Was it just
But
suggestion?
then
Yeah.
working with an actual hypnotist, like in a therapeutic session in the
Mm,
clinic that I used to run, we
mm,
had a hypnotherapist, a licensed hypnotherapist,
mm,
a licensed professional therapist, and hypnotherapist. She did both.
mm,
And she taught me like how a lot of hypnosis is self-hypnosis. It's the willingness to go along and
mm.
follow these instructions.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like as long as you feel safe and comfortable and you're willing to allow yourself to sink into that place and
Mm,
go along with it. You're not asked to do anything too outlandish. Your mind will
mm,
comply, comply, comply,
yeah.
comply until you are
I
just
feel like,
lulled
yeah,
into
that makes
receiving.
sense. I did feel like if he asked me to do something that I didn't want to do, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, yeah. If he pushed it, you'd have like, nah. But
Mm,
y'all probably getting some laughs internally. You
mm.
probably felt a little chuckle, and it was like, yeah, let's play along. It's fun.
It was very freeing. It was almost like you had a permission slip to do whatever,
The permission
within
slip.
reason. Yeah,
You
you
would
have
never
permission
do
to
that in
do
public on
things
a regular.
that you wouldn't normally do. I mean, I wouldn't normally, I wouldn't have normally stripped off in front of a room full of people, but because
Right.
he sort of there was a permission there, because I wasn't, in a sense, I wasn't necessarily myself, um
Yeah.
or a version. I was just a version of me. if you like. But because I could remember everything, that was the other thing. A lot of people who say they've been hypnotized can't remember anything, whereas I remembered it. I remembered everything, which I found which made me question whether I was hypnotized.
I want to say I've never had an experience of being hypnotized and not being able to remember.
Okay.
And I think the only in my reflections, as far as how much the little bit that I've studied about it and what I've seen in media, the only times I've seen where people say they can't remember hypnosis is when the hypnosis was implanted for them to forget, for them to not remember.
Oh, right. Okay. I see what you mean.
Most cases, most sessions I've had, I pretty much remember them all. They wouldn't be effective if you didn't walk away with your memory. They just would not be effective. The whole point is to dig up memories or to dig up the subconscious, bring it to the forefront, right? Or to pull up that sense of compliance. But if you're pulling up that sense of compliance, that's when it's I can place the suggestion for you to forget. Maybe the fear comes up that I can get you to do something you don't really want to do.
Yeah, totally. I see what you mean. Yeah, it makes sense. So yeah, interesting. All right, brother. Thank you.
Interesting. We should explore some more sometime. Maybe you should get a hypnosis up here, you and Thomas.
Yeah, that'd be quite cool. Yeah, why not?
Just start grilling them. Do you make people forget? Tell the
truth. I'll have to have a look into that and see if we can get someone who is a hypnotist. But yeah, why not?
This was fun, Jimmy. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you, brother. Thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Do you want to just remind everyone where we can find you?
Sure, absolutely. So for those who don't know, you can find me on Facebook, on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/I am Zay-P. Or you can find me on my YouTube channel, Zay-P the I am, because I am that I am, as you are that you are, for we are all that we are. So YouTube, Facebook, etc. Social media places online, but not that active on them except for YouTube and Facebook.
Cool. All right, man. Well, thank you again, and thank you everyone for watching and listening, and we'll see you all soon.
Nice. Peace and blessings, y'all.